Heck yeah. Look what we have today. So, this is a little bit bigger box than I had a few days ago for that other smaller welder. Welcome back, y'all. Today I have a tool that I want to show y'all that I'm super excited about. Today's gonna be like an introduction video, if you will, really because this machine is so versatile. I'm gonna be using it so heavily on my future builds, it's not even funny. This is actually a multi-process machine from YESWELDER. It's arguably one of their best machines. I think they only have one above it, but it doesn't even have all the same functions. So this is actually a MIG, TIG, stick, and plasma cutter. I've been using a grinder for years, and I'm so tired of it slinging sparks everywhere and taking forever to cut. This thing cuts through, I think, 1/2-inch steel, like that. It's what I've seen, it's amazing. I'm super excited to try this thing out. Plus, it's honestly such a budget-friendly machine for what all you get. It's just over $1,000. I'm super excited to try this thing out. I feel like it's gonna be really useful in so much of my future videos. So let's go ahead and break into it and see what's in the box. I also got a new welding shield because this YESWELDER one's kind of crapped to bed. It's been beaten, used over the past few years. New versus old. Heck yeah. Now, for the moment of truth. First big, open this thing up. So we got the clamp. It's got a little small connector. We got the ground clamp, which some of these can be upgraded. MIG gun feels feels pretty solid, honestly. Trigger's nice, everything's metal. Trigger is actually feels really good. It's got the Euro style connector. I have not checked. This is the regular MIG gun, but I don't know if it's a spool gun compatible or not, which I don't really have a reason to try to use a spool gun. I've heard they really sucky, so if I need to weld aluminum, I'm just gonna use my Everlast. We got a TIG torch, some consumables. This is lift start, so it has the gas valve right here. Got a nice plastic covering for it. Super excited for this puppy. And more consumables. It's got a protective layer as well. Now for the moment of truth. Actually, we got water separator. Got the 240 to 120 adapter. Here she is. Dual fan. You got cutting gas inlet, MIG gas inlet. You got the cutting torch inlet, the Euro style MIG inlet. Ground clamp, positive, negative. Interesting. Looks really nice. I am super excited to try this thing out. All metal components in here, which is nice. First thing I'm gonna do to display the functions of this machine is I'm gonna take some 1/4-inch steel. This is actually a shim from my job. And I'm going to cut with the plasma cutter a new foot for my kickstand. It ended up breaking off and now it's just a little stub. And so, this is an off-road bike that I built, and it can hardly even be on asphalt because it'll sink in. So I need to build a new foot for that. So I'm gonna pull that off and then kind of try to find the angle, which I think I already got the angle because it broke off in a specific angle. So I'm just probably gonna cut a large oval almost out of this with the plasma cutter. and then I'm going to use the TIG function to weld it onto it. I finally got myself a bottle of 7525 for MIG, so I could test that function out, but I do have an argon bottle right here with my Everlast. Right there, I'll hook that up so I can test the TIG function. It's only lift start, so there's no foot pedal like my Everlast, so I'll have to set the amperage to exactly what I want, which might be hard because this is 1/4 inch and that is a thin-walled tube basically, so I'll have to probably set it pretty low on amperage to be able to weld to that without melting through. But it's gonna be interesting, so let's get into it. So first thing is you gotta set up your regulator on the back of the machine. So this is how you mount it. I actually put a quick disconnect instead of another nipple, so I can pull my hose down and just connect it to it. And there you go. My machine's ready to cut as long as my settings are dialed in right. I actually currently have 2 water separators, one right here and then one on the machine. So there shouldn't be any water getting into the plasma cutting setup, so we should be good there. The air comes in the left side of the regulator, goes out the right, and this should go directly into the cut gas. And make sure these are tight because, well, this is a lot of pressure on this rubber hose. So I got it plugged into the wall. I'm gonna turn it on. And it does this really cool display. So it's currently on MIG right now. So I'm gonna go home, move it around till I got plasma. But as you can see, there's settings, stick, MIG, this is flux core, lift start, and then plasma. So I'm gonna go to plasma. So it's got a max of 40 amps. I don't think I'll need that for 1/4 inch steel. And I'm gonna set my gas. So this gauge is not in PSI. The main readout on here is metaparsals. And so I think this machine is optimal in the 58 PSI to 72 range, somewhere around there. And you got 0.4 metaparsals is around a 58, and then 0.5 is around, I think, 72 and something. So I set it just over 0.4. So around 61 PSI I have running to it right now. So we're gonna go to ground. So I'm gonna plug the torch into the torch inlet right here. Go get my template, mark it out, and then I'll cut it. Cuts are pretty clean. Now, I'm kind of crappy. Never really used a plasma cutter much, so that's not bad though. I'm just gonna take a grinder and probably smooth it out a little bit. So now I'm gonna hook up my TIG torch. So I'm gonna take the connector, plug it into the negative, take the gas, and I'm going to bring it over to my regulator. When you purchase the YESWELDER regulator, it comes with this fitting right here, like this one. This is from my Everlast. Or you can put this adapter on it and you can put a hose on it and clamp it on. So I'm actually gonna cut this hose a little bit down here, so if I ever wanted to use a male fitting, I could put this back together. But I'm just gonna snip it and then I can slide it on here and use that. Gas on, turn the needle valve. So before you start welding, you just turn it on a little bit, get a nice flow. I'm going to take this piece, smooth the edges out a little bit more, and try to make it look a little bit better. One of the most important things is clean metal for sure. Before you start welding a bunch, I would recommend you buying a bunch of consumables corresponding to the kind of welding you're gonna be doing. Like if you're gonna be using 1/8 or 3/32 tungsten a lot, I would recommend buying all the collet bodies, stuff like that, corresponding to what you're gonna be welding with, just because it's good to have all that. I currently have a bunch of extra stuff that I never use. It was currently in plasma cutting mode. So I'm gonna go home, lift TIG, and select it. So pretty high amperage, I definitely don't want 180 something. So let's go down to, let's see, relatively thin metal. That is a lot thicker. Let's just go with, because you can't change this like you can with a foot pedal, so this is fixed. Let's start out with something relatively low at 130. The ground clamp is positive and the TIG torch is negative, but other than the amperage, there's no settings. There's no pre-flow, post-flow, nothing like that, because this machine is not controlled by a foot pedal. So all I'm gonna do is touch the metal, and then when I lift, the arc will strike, and then I'll weld at 130 amp. Amperage was a little high. I mean, it filled that in great without having to change amperage, or like, you know, like my regular foot pedal, I'd be able to just change the amperage corresponding to where I am, but it still was, it looked like it got good penetration, as well as I filled in that gap pretty easy. Also, I just ran out of gas, so that was partly the reason why I was having an issue with that shielding a second ago. So I actually put the kickstand back on the bike. It doesn't look bad, but then again, I am not used to lift start. It did pretty good penetration and everything, but I'm actually gonna start working on the tabletop. Do some of these lines to try to finish fusing these together. Like this was done by the multi-process machine that I got from Vivor. That thing was like 180 bucks, and it was a flux core, and it did pretty good. I'm actually gonna do the lift start and see how I can do with this. It's thick metal, it should be able to work easy, so let's get into it. I'm not a professional at walking the cup, so don't criticize me. Gas on. It actually looks pretty good. There is some porosity in the beginning. I'm not sure if it's me not cleaning the surface enough. It might have been some stuff between the plates. But the second half, after I guess it was heated up and burned off, it looks pretty good. As you can see, there's a lot of porosity in the beginning, but the middle looks really good. Got a nice weave pattern, and I'm pretty happy with that. I am not super good at walking the cup, so, you know, it is what it is. And I kind of veered off there because I wasn't really paying attention well. So, but overall, it looks pretty good. It welds great. I mean, it's honestly me. I'm the limiting factor in this situation. I will say I do like the foot pedal, but like I said, this machine is probably something you want to buy if you're mainly going to use the plasma and MIG function. If I was planning on doing a ton of TIG, I'd probably go with the model above this one, It's a plasma cutter, air compressor, AC, DC, TIG, and I believe there's a foot pedal control, or at least the capability for it. This one doesn't have the capability because it's, you know, a lift start setup. This is a great machine, but this is AC, DC, TIG only, as well as stick. But this thing does a whole lot more, and if you are planning to do MIG a lot, this would be a great machine. Gas is on. For the amount of times I fell off the weld, that actually looks pretty good. So I didn't really extensively test the TIG function, mainly because I got a real-world application with the foot pad on my kickstand, which could happen a lot on all my bikes, and then also like a test plate. And as long as I don't make a mistake, it seems to do pretty good. Now, I have a lot of room to improve, but these are pretty good to my standards. Now let's go ahead and test the MIG function, because that's what I'm most excited about, because I've never had access to a MIG welder. So let's get into it. So you're gonna take the cap off the bottle, spin it around. Tighten it. Now you can take the protector off. First time I've really set up a MIG, so. So I put this in here a few days ago. This actually came in the mail broken, and I'm kind of hoping it works fine. So we'll see. But you got to make sure it's ran through here and routed underneath that and into the connector. So I'm actually going to turn it on. Watch the cool power on. So I'm going to go home, plasma cutter, stick, MIG, this flux core. So go back to MIG, select it. And so we're going to not mess with any settings right now, but we're going to see if we can get this to come out. Oh, I'm going to turn the gas off right now, so I'm not wasting gas. So as you can see, it's feeding through right now, spinning the whole thing. It's feeding through the line. Is there a faster mode? $37 a minute. Let's see if that. It's still not that fast. Man, it is so slow. Ah! Ah! There it is. Finally. Hoorah. The spool is good. Close that up. So now we're going to mess with the settings. So you got to click the right one to go up on the top bar. Click it again for the gas. And scroll down to 75% argon, 25% CO2, because that's what I got. Then go over to the wire. I got wire for steel, and I got 0.035 wire. Then I'm going to leave it on 2T. You press the trigger and let off the trigger, and it'll turn off. Let's do 3/8. I'm not sure what burn back is. Pull back, and then I'm going to dial down the amperage to 150.
And make sure you pay attention to your cheat sheet because I gotta move my ground over from positive to negative because lift start, the ground is on positive, so I gotta swap it. I think that I need to go a lot faster or something. That is a massive, massive pump. Or hit it more with more amperage. Pump up the voltage. I really don't know about the voltage. I don't know anything about the voltage. So, you know, I'm learning. Wow, it is still very convex. I mean, it seems to weld great, but it is very convex. So I've tested about every function on this thing. The only thing I have not done is stick. So I'm on MIG, I'm gonna go home, switch over to MMA, select, bump up to 130 amps. So I'm gonna click the right, go up to the rod selection. You got an option for 60 and 70. Going to 70/18, so 1/8 inch, and that's memory. We don't really care about memory. So I'm gonna set it at 130 amp, and I'm gonna plug this into the positive. The ground is still in the negative. Oh yeah. You actually got the slag coming up after the weld, which is awesome. I love that. I think I may have gone too fast, but it looks pretty good. Let's do it again. I bumped up to 140 amps. That is a nice bead. I like that. Stick function works pretty good too. So before I wrap this video up, I am going to use this plate that I used for the foot pad. I'm going to finish cutting it in half and then weld it together in a T-joint just to try out some more stuff. I think I'm going to do the MIG for that. So I'm going to connect the plasma back, plug it in. I will say it is a little hard to try to screw this thing on. Go to home, switch over to plasma cutting. Go to home, go back to MIG, select it, pull out my plasma cutting setup, put it away. Gotta turn the gas on, don't forget that. Wow, that actually looks pretty good. am not the best MIG welder, but there's like little to no undercut. It's not convexed or concave. It's like a perfect 45 between both plates. It looks surprisingly good. I think I may do another pass on that. Wow. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's a decent weave pattern. It honestly looks pretty great.
So that is actually me it for the introduction to this welder, but that's not the last you're gonna see of it. I'm gonna use it so much in my future projects just because it does everything. I do wanna say they did send this machine to me for free, but I was not obligated to say anything in particular. I was just able to give my honest opinion, and it's pretty good. I will say it's not a industrial machine. It's not made to use 8, 10, 15 hours in a day. It's made to be used as like a hobbyist machine or a DIY or maybe even light fabrication in a small shop. Especially for the price, it's really hard to beat with all the processes. I mean, the only thing it's missing is high frequency start TIG, which you can't expect that out of a machine this size and for that price. This machine was a high frequency start AC/DC machine, and it was $1,600 alone. So for $1,000 and you get all that stuff, it's really hard to beat. If y'all are interested in buying any of the Yes Welders, I do have a promo code. It's BENJAMMINOUT. I'll actually put it in the description so you can click on it, copy and paste. But it gets you 10% off, and it also gives me a little kickback. So if y'all want to use that, I would greatly appreciate it. But overall, this machine's got no complaints. I mean, everything about the machine is pretty nice. I mean, the user interface is probably one of the best parts. I mean, it just looks so good. I mean, just look at it. It's just super nice. The only really complaint that I have is all the connectors down here are actually really small, like I already said. Plus, this one is kind of hard to screw on. But other than that, there's really no complaints. I mean, it performs right out of the box like it should. I mean, that is the second pass on a MIG weld. And it looks great. The first pass looked just as good. And, I mean, that was a stick weld. That was a 7018. That was, I went a little too fast on that one. The TIG looked pretty good. I'm not really good at walking the cup though, so that was my issue. Those were actually my first MIG welds with this machine, period. But as it went along, it got better. But still, with very little experience with MIG and plasma cutting, I feel like I did a pretty good job. And it's just great for somebody that's learning. Especially for the price, it's hard to beat.